Coming up next on Access Framingham TV, Uganda, Australia, and Kenya, with my guest, Roy Bariga. Stay tuned. Welcome to Travels with Jack. I'm your host, Jack Barron. Each month, we bring you a new guest with an exciting travel experience to share. It might be a vacation in California, a study of religions in Trinidad, a trek in the Himalayan mountains, or a visit to the beautiful Taj Mahal. Where have you gone? Please join me and share a recent trip, a vacation, a cruise, maybe a day trip right here in New England. Share your photos and tell me about your travels. Just contact us here at Access Framingham Television and let us know you'd like to be a guest. You can phone AFTV at area code 508-875-5434, or you can send an email message to info@accessfram.tv. One of our associate producers will contact you to make arrangements for you to be on our show here on Access Framingham TV. Today, my guest is Roy Bariga. While on a music, dance, and drama tour of Australia in 2011, Roy met an Australian teacher and filmmaker, Jonathan Otto. Like Roy, Jonathan was passionate about mission work in Africa. After months of careful deliberations, Roy and Jonathan decided to base their mission trip in Bungoma, Western Kenya, where they founded the Feed Africa Project. From their base at an orphanage called Robin's Nest, they were able to reach out to poor farmers, equip them with seed, fertilizer, and better farming methods to improve their crop yields. As a result, these disadvantaged farmers were able to feed their families, educate their children, and subsequently get on a journey towards self-sustainability. Welcome to Travels with Jack, Roy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It was a lot for me to spit out today. A few notes about Roy. He is from Kabale, Uganda, in southwest Uganda, which is near the border with Rwanda. Roy is a Nkoli tribal member. Many Africans still belong to a tribe, so I asked him what tribe. That's where he's from. Roy came to the United States in 2012 to work on post-production filmmaking in New York. He's currently living here in Framingham, and he is a single gentleman and open to meeting a nice, adventurous lady, and who might want to help him with documentary filmmaking. He loves to do philanthropy and public service and wants to be a global ambassador for social justice.
Correct.
Good. A little bit of history. Early on, Roy worked with his mother on several projects involving textile and interior design work. He was also a journalist for the Daily Monitor, a large independent Ugandan newspaper. He has a degree from, I'm going to screw this up, Mekere University in Uganda. And a little history, Uganda was a British protectorate in the late 1800s and became an independent nation on October 9th, 1962.
Yep.
Welcome.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to see pictures. This was a trip you took in 2011. Tell me a little bit about the trip. Where did you start off? Where did it begin?
As a matter of fact, this trip actually began in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
So it was a trip organized to kind of the plight regarding the plight of former child soldiers. And this is a place that I worked called Watoto. It's an organization in Uganda called Watoto that looks after orphans and vulnerable women. And one of these projects, the Child Soldier Project, came up as a result of the war that happened in northern Uganda. A 2-decade war with Joseph Kony. I believe many Americans know Joseph Kony.
I think he is currently where? In the jail?
Central African Republic is still on the run.
Oh, he's in there.
Yes.
And certainly Central African Republic. I'm going to date the show a little bit, but I know there was a United Nations, I was telling you earlier, report today about terrible atrocities going on in the Central African Republic with murdering many children, amongst other horrible stories. So...
yeah, so this tour was really about highlighting the plight and also the fact that the war had kind of ended in northern Uganda, but the people needed rehabilitation. The women that had been mutilated, children that were born out in the bush, didn't have an identity because some of them were actually fathered by Joseph Kony and the warlords, and they were now back in Uganda. They don't know who their fathers are. So it was really more like canvassing for support to raise these children and also take the community through trauma rehabilitation and all those kind of projects. So that's why we're going around the world rallying support and sponsors for these children and these communities.
You know, I've been complaining about the weather, that I'm too cold and every day is ice and snow, but when I talk to people like you, it minimalizes my complaints.
Yeah.
So you started with this, and you actually started in the United States.
Yeah, we did start in the United States in September of 2010.
Yep.
Went into Canada around October, then into the UK, then went back home for a Christmas break, and then 2011 we ended up in Australia and New Zealand.
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
And so you busy concentrating on rehabilitation. What was the work you were doing in Australia and New Zealand that had to do with this rehabilitation work of the orphans and the women? How did it connect?
So how it connects is it's so weird that when we went to Australia, the US, some people had an idea of what had happened in northern Uganda. But Australia and New Zealand seemed to be on a whole different planet. They were clueless. Most of them were clueless. Why? Because probably their news is always covering about just what is going on in their own countries and stuff like that.
Western media does not spend a lot of time on those kind of local... they're international, but they're local wars. They are more interested in the big buzz stories, like we have the missing Malaysian plane.
Yes.
This is, where the media seems to spend their energy.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the fact that an atrocity that happens in one part of the world somehow affects the rest of the world. So that's why this organization rallies the rest of the world to come and combat this, so as eventually to create a leadership, because I mean many of these countries are suffering from a problem of leaders. So you're trying to raise the next generation of leaders by raising these children and giving their lives back to them, giving their innocence back to them, counseling them, and even the communities, helping them, overcome this trauma. And
now this map will show us where Uganda is. And what would you describe? Is Uganda considered an East African or Central African?
Yes.
What do you call it?
Yeah, Uganda is actually an East African country.
East African country.
It is
okay.
an East African country. And that is Kabale. I really love Kabale. That's where I was born in 1980.
Okay.
Yeah, so the hill right behind me is actually the hill where I was born.
Really?
It's called Makanga.
Okay.
Now this is Watoto Church. It's where the Watoto project was born, the Watoto Child Care Project. And I just decided to feature some of this. This is a Christmas cantata. They have a Christmas cantata, more like a gift to the city of Kampala. And it's an awesome production. And actually, these are Watoto children who are featured there as angels.
Now, is this an Anglican church, or this is
I'd say it's
denomination?
It's part of the Assemblies of God.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's part of the Assemblies
And
of
are
God.
you? Do you? Well, I'll let you talk. Go ahead about the choir. That
Yeah,
looks like.
that's about. It's a choir that is made of about 200.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 200 strong choir. So every end of year, around about Christmas, a week leading up to Christmas, over 16 shows, given free of charge.
So this is a big deal.
It is a big deal. Yep. It is a big deal.
You should video the show. You'll
Actually, I was a part of the production team. I worked with Watoro as production manager for 6 years. So that was always an exciting time.
Well, this is something, believe it or not, I wouldn't be surprised if something like WGBH or even here Access Framingham TV might be willing to show this. I think it would be a great show.
Oh yeah,
Christmas.
I would definitely be willing
I will
to bring
speak
this.
to the management.
Sure. You're welcome.
This is what?
So now this is Watoto, one of the villages. Every village has a school, a dispensary.
This looks like in the United States a summer camp. Do you know what a summer camp is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that's what it looks
so this
like.
is one of the villages that's one out of 4 villages that Watoto hosts. Watoto has children there. The children don't live in dormitories. They live in houses. Every child lives in a house with a house mother. There's 8 children to a house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that is a circle, what we call a circle. There's 8 houses kind of built in a circular form.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do they dine in each house, or is there a big dining room?
They do dine in each house, so it's more
really?
like family. It's a family setting.
All right.
So we're doing some documentary filming there. We're always doing documentary films about these children, individual stories, and they're always exciting to kind of follow up the progress of
and
the child.
And the weather looks lovely. Tell me a little bit about, this is beautiful building.
Yeah, that is another village. That's a whole different village. That's called Subi Village. Yeah.
Oh, I like the way it looks.
And that is a baby's home. You can imagine that whole facility is a baby's home, and that's one of 3 babies' homes that Watoto is running.
This is where little
children rescued from pit latrines, from garbage dumps.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and taken there. Some of them lifeless.
So, is there a minister of this church who is a major leader? It sounds like this is a tremendous project.
Yes, actually, the founders of Watoto are Canadian. They came from Canada. A gentleman called Pastor Gary and his wife Marilyn Skinner.
Oh, yes. So they kind of have adopted this.
They founded the church, and because of the need then, that was the post-war times in Uganda. That was around 1981. That's when they started.
So they are very intimately connected with this church in Africa.
Actually, they are based in Africa.
Oh, and these Canadians are based in Africa?
They are based in Africa, and they have raised lots of leaders. They don't just have one church. They have right now about 6 different campuses.
I understand this because, in fact, we had a guest. Go ahead, I'll get back to my guest, but this is what a...
now that is one of the tailoring rooms. It's in the children's village, Subi Children's Village. Not all the children really fit into the regular school, so some of them are given a chance to do vocational training.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Yeah. And that is now bricklaying, so another vocational class that they can take.
So, and this is everyone smiling?
Yeah, now that is some of the children and then the film crew. We decided to take a picture together. Oh, so now this was the beginning of the Restore Tour trip. We were in the UK then. We just arrived in the UK, missed our flight to the US, so we spent the night in London. And those were our team leaders. They're currently actually the pastors of Watoto Church, Juba. So Watoto is now in Juba, South Sudan.
Oh, they're really?
Yep.
And how are they doing in South Sudan? Okay.
Well, they kind of they drew back during the conflict, but then
there's been a lot of conflict in Sudan.
Yeah, thankfully it's kind of calmed down, and now they're back doing business.
Oh, so they've expanded the church down there as well.
Really, because it's pretty much the same characteristics: the war, post-war trauma, and all that. So
these wars are leaving. Now, this is what? This is in London.
Yeah, this is in London. That Hotel Hopper took us to Gatwick. That's where we spent the night. And you can see these children grow up so disciplined. We raise
Yeah, I
them
was going
very
to say they seem very well behaved.
Yeah, and I mean that is pretty much a part of raising them to be leaders, you know, to take the country to a whole different level. Yeah, that was me posing for a picture in front of Hilton, Gatwick.
Oh, okay.
Just before we boarded the bus back to Heathrow Airport. And now that was a trip. That was in the US.
I see. Your bus has the Restore tour.
Child
You're almost like a rock stars. That's how the rock stars go. You know, they always have the tour on their bus.
That's the children having a little time to play. They did some school, actually. It was not all just traveling and all that. They did a bit of school time on the bus. They also did some playing on the bus. Yeah, the driver had to be sure of where he was going, so 3 GPS. Yeah. I think that was a trip we were taken from Pennsylvania all the way to Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's a lot to see of the U.S.
Oh, okay. Now, when you were in Memphis, tell me a little bit about what did they do, an exhibit?
Well,
did you meet with other churches? What did you do in Memphis?
We were hosted by churches or groups of people that took us to an auditorium where we performed.
Oh, you did perform? Okay.
Yeah, we're going to see some of the pictures of the performances.
Oh, great.
And hopefully sometime I'll be able to show some of the performances on TV, Access Birmingham TV.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think that would be terrific. And this shows a map of, that's a world map, but I gather that we should focus on Australia.
The next will be probably Australia.
So you went with this group and performed. Now, this is Australia. Did you perform in all these territories?
I would say we majorly performed we started out in New South Wales, in Sydney, then went up to Queensland, and then came down through New South Wales again, and then down to Victoria, then South Australia, and then flew all the way to the west, to Perth and surrounding places. So that was us at Entebbe Airport.
Entebbe Airport with the famous
Raid
Idi Amin held the Israelis captive.
Exactly there.
That's the big story we know as Americans about Uganda.
Yeah. So now we're in Australia, beginning our tour in Australia. And that was the biggest, I think that was the biggest facility we did a concert at, and that is Hillsong Church, renowned for very great music. Yes, it is a church.
You're kidding, this big.
And they have about 5 services on a weekend.
Really? Now, is this a fundamentalist church, what we call?
This is also a part of the same family, the Assemblies of God.
I think we would, I don't know if Australia calls them fundamentalists, but in America, usually these churches with very, how do I put it? Exciting speakers and,
rockstar music.
Yeah, well, we have some very famous TV ministers who are on television all the time, and, they have big churches like that.
Yes. So this would be a kind of evangelical. It's more
evangelical. Yes. Oh.
So
with Sydney.
Yeah, we saw a bit of Sydney. We didn't have a whole lot of time to tour, but we got to go around a little bit. Yeah. That is the Luna Park around Sydney, and then, it was very fascinating to see.
Oh, Sydney's a lovely city.
Yeah. So right before the Sydney Harbour Bridge, we took a few pictures of the Opera House. I didn't get to stick those in there. Yeah, so we're posing for a picture with our Aboriginal brother, the boomerang and his, Then we were taking a little bit of a rest and then kind of regrouping and doing some Sunday worship. That was a Sunday.
Now, when you do these events at these big churches and entertain, do they help you raise funds?
Yes, we do. We have a time to take an offering.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
was it successful? Did it generate good offerings?
It did generate, and more than that, generated partners. So you don't just want somebody to give their money, but somebody who can partner with you long term. Yeah.
Who's interested and can help spread the word of what's going on.
So that's a dance that comes from the northern part of Uganda. So when you think about Uganda as a country, we have all these little cultures, different tribal cultures, and if each of them has their own distinct way of doing things, so different dances. So this comes from the northern part of Uganda, which was affected by the war, the Kony War. Yeah, that's just one of those times where relaxing before our performances. And then now we're hanging out with our hosts. That was in Tari. Tari is north of Sydney.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we took off time to...
You went to the beach.
Yes, go to the beach.
Uganda, you don't have the ocean. You're landlocked.
We have a big lake, Lake Victoria, so that kind of compensates. But yeah, that was my first experience with salt water. Yeah. So Jonathan is the person on the extreme right of that picture. The gentleman on the extreme right. That's also Jonathan.
Okay.
So that is where I met Jonathan. Yeah. That was kangaroo. My very first sighting of a kangaroo. Oh, so that is a city called Port Macquarie, still in New South Wales, north of Sydney. So we got a chance to visit this. Different hosts take you to different places. So this is a little Rodo house. It's a historical house built in the over 100 years old, in the early 1900s. And they also have on the very same facility, they have a koala hospital.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the very first koala hospital.
And there's one of the patients.
Yeah, right there. So that is the Rodo house.
It looks similar to the homes in Uganda.
Really?
Well, you know, they're British originally.
Yeah, that's actually Victorian. Yeah, it's a Victorian.
Yeah.
So these are some of the Aborigine instruments. That's a club. Yeah, this was Australia. It's Australia Day, so we got to go around town and see what was happening. So there's a cultural festival going on. So yeah, that was a truckload. Whenever we had a concert, we had to offload that truck and set up.
Oh, so you were like a big rock group. You had the trucks and you had the bus and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, so Dakabin is also close to Brisbane.
Okay.
Yeah, that is northwest of Brisbane. We got to perform at a couple of high schools, a couple of churches.
Now, who set up this whole schedule for you?
We had a coordinator. We have a coordinator in Australia who kind of networked with people. And
the coordinator in Australia linked you to the U.S.? No, just Australia.
Australia.
And another coordinator handled the U.S.?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, there is a regular choir that visits different continents. There is currently one choir that has just left the West Coast. They've headed back to Uganda. And there's going to be one heading here in beginning of next year.
Oh.
So hopefully they can come up to our studio and
absolutely.
do a live
put them on my show.
Yeah, that would be great.
So that you do a lot of traveling with this group.
Yes, we do a lot of traveling.
And so this was a barbecue.
Barbecue. That was we were hosted. My group was hosted by a youth group from the Dakabin area. So every chaperone and their 3 or 2 children are hosted by different families. So I got hosted by a youth group, which was. So they gave us a treat to some great food, foreign to Uganda.
Yeah.
But it's always an adventure. When you go to see places.
This is an adventure for you. Wow.
Yeah. So that is us at the beach again. That must have been Perth. So Australia, just the highlight on Australia is kind of coming to an end. So those were my 2 boys. I had 3 boys. Yeah, the gentleman. Yeah, those are all. The gentleman, though, in Sheds is an American. He was doing our sound. And then, the rest are children. There's 2 uncles in there. The kids call us uncles when we're on tour.
Oh, okay.
And they call the ladies aunt. Yeah, that's another college we went to perform at.
And that is in Australia also?
That's still Australia, yes. Yeah, that is another caption of a performance. Very dynamic dance.
Yes.
Very dynamic. Yeah, that is our team leader introducing us.
I'm telling you, the video of your Christmas show is something I think a lot of people would love to see.
Sure, I'll definitely look for copies.
Yeah.
I'll send for copies from Uganda.
Absolutely.
So during the tour, I ran the video. I set up for the video, so I had that wide screen. I had a bit of help to set it up and then run the video and the sound.
And they do all kinds of acrobats and everything.
Somersaults and all that. So that is us on a day of hanging out with the youth group, relaxing. It's always good to have a day off after a week of work and lots of traveling. Yeah, so the drama depicted what happened, a society that was all united and having fun, and before you know it, these soldiers came in and, raped the girls and killed some of the members of the family.
What was their main reason for this? Do you have a...
Joseph Coyne?
Yes.
I would say Joseph Coyne said he was trying to bring about, I would say, independence, trying post-independence, I would call it. He calls his movement the Lord's Resistance Movement. So he was kind of resisting the current regime. That was when the NRM, which is currently running the show in Uganda, that's when they had just taken over power in 1986. So he thought he wanted to liberate the country from the NRM.
So he was the opposing political group.
Exactly. So that is Australia bus. That's another time of reflection and rebooting.
So you do a lot of prayer groups along with the travel?
Yeah, because most of the time we're either performing or at the host home. So we always needed time in between the performances to kind of group together. So that is Orange, and that is west of Sydney. So yeah, we had quite a number of gadgets. So one of those times...
They keep you very busy, it looks like.
They do. So one of those times the smoke machine went off, so that the fire department guys came in and decided to take pictures with them. So that was fun. So this is a farewell. That was a big ranch. So we were kind of hosted by members of this family. That was one family that hosted all of us. Yeah. So they all live around the same place.
Now this looks, let's see.
That's still
U.S. No, M1 would be
that's still Australia.
In Australia. But I see the sign Cleveland. Mm-hmm. It confuses me. We have Cleveland, Ohio.
Exactly, and Logan.
They have Logan too.
Yes. So that's another time that I stayed at a farm with my group, my 3 boys. So we're going lobster fishing. We caught some good boys, and we got to fry them and eat them.
How were they? They look like what we'd call crayfish.
Crayfish.
Crayfish is a small little lobster prevalent in like Louisiana in the southern United States. Look like those.
So yeah, that was another day to adventure.
And you found another place to go swimming?
Yes, we did find another. This was Gold Coast. That was a very great vacation place in Australia. Yeah, so those times, like birthdays, we took off time to celebrate the children's birthdays, which means a lot to them. I mean, after all they've been through. So, yeah, that was some time with our host out in the Gold Coast. Then we happened to meet a gentleman from Sudan.
Okay.
Yeah, so that gentleman we met at the beach is from Sudan.
Really, of all the places?
Center.
Okay.
Yeah. And Sudan has gone through the same things that northern Uganda has been through, so that was very special. So that's Fred, a friend. We went hanging out in Adelaide. So that is in Adelaide, and we were hosted to some seafood.
They have great seafood.
Yeah, we got some good seafood. Now that's a comparison, Ugandan food versus seafood.
Well, you have fish out of Lake Victoria.
We do have fish out of Lake Victoria.
And Lake Victoria, of course, is the Nile River.
Yes.
Goes into the
Nile River comes out of Lake Victoria. Yeah.
And you have the famous Victoria Falls as you go into Zimbabwe.
Yeah, that is down. Yeah, yes. Zimbabwe. But these two are not connected. Lake Victoria and Zimbabwe Falls. There's no connection.
Oh, really?
No. So that's still downtown Adelaide, and then this one was taken in Perth, the Sunset Coast. That was our host, a gentleman, extreme left. So we get back to Uganda. So now we know where I got to meet Jonathan. So I get back to Uganda and I try to, visit some of these places that share the very same experience, starvation and deprivation and, all that stuff. So I visited some places in Uganda that go through the very
It's
same.
amazing how your mission is so upbeat, positive, great costumes, music, and yet what you're dealing with from the start is so negative, depressing. It's almost like a rebirth.
Exactly, and it's also therapeutic because you've gone through suffering and you don't talk about it. You bottle it all up. It's not so good. So you tell the story and life goes on. So that is on our way to the northeastern part of Uganda. That's Karamoja, probably known as Karamoja.
Do the children find that prayer and in getting involvement with God, which I know they really don't have a choice because that's who's overseeing the program, but do you sense that helps them in overcoming their history?
It does help them a lot.
A lot.
A great deal. And I would say they're not forced to, believe in God and all that, but they're given the option to believe in God.
And
there's Bible studies available. Yeah, if they choose not to go to the chapel, because each of the villages has a chapel, if they choose not to go to the chapel, they're not going to be spanked or anything. But they're given the choice to choose. And many of them end up going to church,
Because, our social programs, go ahead, this is what?
Oh, Peanuts? That is Peanuts, yes. On our way to Karamoja with now these are different people. We're going on a whole different mission. Karamoja happens to be very arid, like I said. So there's a lot of, the children and the people there are prone to child trafficking and human trafficking.
Oh.
Some of them end up in Kampala City to beg on the streets, begging little kids who are as young as 2 years old. Find them on the streets begging for money and all that. Yeah, so we're heading out there to kind of establish what's going on and to follow up on some of the projects, a different organization this time around. So that happens to be, those are mudfish traps actually, you may not tell, but there's a lining of traps right there. Yeah. So this is the eastern part of Uganda.
It seems very fertile.
It is. Part of it is fertile. Now, this is on our way to Karamoja. You go through some fertile land and then you hit some arid land. So you can see now the terrain is kind of changing and it's getting much drier right now.
We were talking earlier, but you grow a lot of coffee?
Yes, we grow a lot of
cotton?
Coffee. Yes, cotton. And lots of fruit.
So now,
this is Karamoja region, which is pretty arid. The people here are pastoralists, so they keep cattle. But because of the aridity of the area, you see now that is a riverbed. So a river is dried up because because of the dry spells. So these are ladies that are taking that firewood. That's actually firewood for cooking and all that. Now they have to take that for miles to earn just about $2. They carry that for miles to earn. So this is a school that we visited to follow up on how the children were doing. It so happens that these children are still on World Food Program handouts. So that's really what doesn't make sense. In a country that would be able to produce enough food to feed everyone, you realize that children like this were being fed on porridge for lunch, for breakfast, lunch, and supper.
I have to tell you, as an American, that's something I've always been proud of, is that we export and give away a tremendous amount of food globally and help many, many poor countries. I'll never forget, I was in Africa one time, and the guide said to me, "Jack, where are you from?" I said, "The United States." He said, "Your country saved my life."
Yes.
He says, "We were very poor. We did not have access to food. I would have starved."
Exactly.
But it was bags of food that said, "Gift of the people of the United States," that kept me alive.
Definitely.
And we do so many wonderful things, really, in America.
Yep. Uganda is very appreciative of the U.S. missionaries, not just the food, even mission work that is happening there. So that is
people
very
always like to complain about America, but no country does what we do.
Exactly.
I know it.
You're a giving country.
We are a very giving country.
That's one thing we're trying to learn. You've given enough to us. We want to learn to be self-sustaining and also be able to give.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is a little town that we went through called Irir. We spent a night there at a Catholic mission. That is where actually the school was.
See, kids are the same everywhere.
Yeah, very delighted. They don't care about what's happening around them. They spend some time to, smile
Yep.
and wave to the guests. So, yeah. Little kids. Now, that is a jerrycan that
Yep.
we use to fetch water.
Oh, okay.
So it's not always that you find water flowing in your house. So usually go down to the well to fetch water.
I was trying to explain to you earlier, we have they were guests of ours here on the show, a church here in Framingham who has an adopted church in Africa.
Yes.
And they go there all the time. And they're developing water sources and wells. They've built schools. They've built dormitories. They've done wonderful, wonderful work. And they're really a small church here in Framingham. But you should see the big development
Exactly.
in Africa. They got a lot of bang for their buck there. They
Definitely, it's hard to imagine how much $1 can go in helping a family.
Yes.
So
I couldn't get over. I noted that so in there when they were guests here, as how much they were able to build and get accomplished in Africa, that here would have taken millions and millions of dollars.
Because you have the resources. You can get the community to burn the bricks to use, and all you need to buy is the cement to hold the bricks together.
Yep,
and
that's what they did. They were making their own bricks.
Exactly.
They had developed a nice infirmary or dispensary. I mean, really, they did wonderful work. It was wonderful. So you moved on from Australia, and we are where now?
So we're in Karamoja, that is northeastern Uganda.
Okay.
So that is actually an internet cafe.
Oh, really?
And it's run by solar power.
Okay. Oh,
so it's all these brilliant projects that, if you...
Well, the Africans countries have done marvelous things with mobile cell phones.
Yes.
Smartphones, cell phones. They don't have the wire infrastructure, and they've done away with it. They don't want it. They're using all the wireless for their computers, cell phones, everything. They're banking.
Yeah.
They're doing on smartphones.
Mobile banking, yes.
Mobile
banking.
banking.
A lot of that, yeah.
Oh, I know it. I'm very...
very good.
Yes.
You are so informed. So these are children in the same area, Karamoja area. So we're visiting the schools to establish how are the children doing. Because at the end of the day, if they're not in school, they're going to end up being trafficked down to Kampala. And somebody's taking advantage of them and using them to raise, picking the money from them. They beg for the money, and then somebody takes it out of their hands.
So school is the safest place for them.
School is, yes, right.
Do they understand that? Do you tell them that?
Sometimes they do, but sometimes their parents. Unfortunately, sometimes it's their parents that are driving them out of school. To take them to beg for money down in Kampala. So.
Oh, the parents use them as well.
Sometimes, yes. So that's why the whole region really needs to be rehabilitated. Because if the parents cannot find a source of living in the region, they're going to kind of look for options. And one of the options is to beg for money down in Kampala. Yeah, so this is me shopping for these kids and encouraging them to go back to school. I met them around town. I'm like, why aren't you in school? They're like, we don't have books. We also need something to eat. So I went around and we bought some food and some books. And you find them everywhere. Now this is a whole different set of kids. Yeah, now that is a lady who was fetching water for a living.
Oh, that's her job.
Yeah, she fetches water.
I like her necklaces. Look at all her colorful necklaces.
More like the Maasai necklaces.
Yes, like the Maasai warriors. Yes.
So these actually are kind of related to the Maasai. They come from the same ethnic background as the Maasai and Turkana of Kenya. So people walk barefoot, no hustle, no pain.
And she's got some bracelets there on her ankles. Now we're in Kenya.
So now we moved to Kenya. Same kind of, we started out in a much more fertile place, which is Bungoma. But then we ended up going to a more arid region, which is Turkana. We won't feature a lot of Turkana today, but we're kind of going to see how the Feed Africa concept was working in a Bungoma region, which is still Western Kenya.
Western Kenya, okay.
Yeah, so I team up with Jonathan and a few other friends from...
And you did your shows and everything in this section of Kenya? You took your shows there?
No, we didn't.
No, this was what? Just mission work?
This was, Feed Africa, a whole different project.
Okay.
When we did the shows and went to Australia, I teamed up I met Jonathan, and he happened to have the same heartbeat for Africa. So was like, why don't we do something together? That's how we ended up in Kenya doing something together, besides the Child Soldier project.
So this is a different project, but a lot of the same people.
Yes, yes. So that is we guys shopping for seed. The good thing about the Kenyan government, it's able to source.
Under Mr. Kenyatta. You're talking
right
about
now.
Today. Okay.
Yeah.
President Kenyatta.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're able to kind of source for the right seed and right fertilizer for different regions of the country, which is not the same happening in Uganda. Unfortunately, Uganda, the infrastructure is broken down.
And the government's helping them select the right crops.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
The very right crop to kind of put up with the weather in a different region. Because, I mean, the dynamics of the weather are different. The weather patterns are different in the...
Believe it or not, here in the United States, we have a huge Department of Agriculture. I think they have a $100 billion budget.
Huh.
Yeah, really. A lot of it is food stamp money, but they also do a lot with farmers as to helping them select the correct crops for their area and help them suggesting, what crops will bring them more revenue, more money. So we do it, except with us, it's a lot of money.
A lot of money, yeah. But it takes very little to.
Well, don't tell Washington that. They don't want to hear that. Don't give them any ideas. Don't say, in Uganda and in Kenya we're doing the same thing you're doing for, $100 billion.
The funny thing is the money they pump out to our countries, like the region Karamoja, they have pumped lots of money out there. But the unfortunate thing is the government officials eat the money. I'm not ashamed to say that because it really needs to end. That's why the people are still languishing in poverty.
I'm shocked. You have corrupt government officials. My goodness.
Very corrupt. That's why the work doesn't get done.
Somebody told me Mr. Putin was corrupt too. I don't know if I should believe these stories.
So that is Jonathan.
My regular audience knows I always make jokes about those things.
So that's Jonathan and Aaron. We're trying to figure out, kind of put the maths together, how much are we going to buy and how much per dollar and all that. So yeah, we're right now in the Kenya seed offices. So that is the gentleman in the Cape is a Kenya seed official. And then Nixon, the gentleman, the dark gentleman, was one of the team. We found him in Kenya and he kind of came on board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, Jonathan and Aaron are from where?
Australia.
Oh, they're both Australians.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and I see you got hybrid seed for corn and maize.
Mm-hmm. So now the great thing was we worked with the community, so you don't even have to pay a social worker to do the work, to follow up with the farmers. So the gentleman in the yellow sweater is a chief. So they have these local leaders called chiefs in Kenya. So we kind of brought him on board and asked him to kind of keep the farmers accountable for the produce, because we wanted the farmers, after they harvest, to give some of their yield to the orphanage where we're operating from.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And that's your payback for doing the work.
Exactly. Yeah, so these are the farmers seated for the talk, because we didn't just want to give them the seed.
I see a lot of women.
Yeah, women do a great deal of the farming in Africa.
Really?
Actually, yes, they do.
I did not know that.
And in a place like Kabale, where I was born, the men are out drinking while the women are doing the farming. It's crazy.
We have that too. Oh, really?
So
the women do a lot of the farming.
Yes. Yeah. So that is the farmers all excited about their seed, and we actually gave them some grain to feed off of.
Now, do the women also go to the markets and sell the vegetables and sell the? Is that more a woman's work, or the men do that?
There's some men that do it,
but a lot of the women, you're saying, run the the farm stands.
Yes. So the women are very instrumental.
The women in Africa do a lot of work.
A lot of work. That's why we need to empower the women, big time, because they raise their children too. So you empower them, you're empowering the next generation. So, the fertilizer actually comes from the U.S. So again, the U.S. at play. I thought you would see it. One of those bags had the U.S. You'd
No,
see
I
it
didn't catch
distinctly.
it, but
Yeah, so those are the names of the sponsors. You see the names in the market.
oh,
Yeah, people that put their money there to help these farmers. And most of the funds came from Australia. We're thankful that right now we are engaging the American community and they're all willing to come on board to support the next initiative.
well,
Feed
we
Africa
have, we
initiative.
have so many different organizations, Oxfam, I don't even know them all, who are involved in feeding. That's always been a big project of Americans is
Yes.
to help feed, because we've always had so much bounty of food, which I hope continues. This year we have a drought in California, which is holding back quite a bit of product, but we will work our way through it.
That's great. Yeah.
But the seed, so this is more seed.
Yeah, so you see Robin's Nest, that was a partnership between Robin's Nest and Feed Africa. So Robin's Nest is the orphanage and Feed Africa is the project that is engaging the farmers. So at the end of the day, when they have a good yield, they're given some of the produce to Robin's Nest to take care of the orphans. Yeah, so it really worked out pretty well.
And do they hold up their part of the bargain?
Yes, because we actually
good.
got them to sign
Oh,
contracts. We're not leaving it to chance.
Oh, you come with the seed, but they got to sign the contract.
They got to sign the contract.
I like that.
To give back to the orphanage. Yeah, so this was one of the family visits. So we're taking one
That's
of
one of the Australians. What has he got for a hairdo there? It's quite...
dreadlocks.
Oh, is it dreadlocks
yes.
with a turban?
Yes.
Okay.
That is Aaron and
Interesting.
Jonathan. Jonathan with the camera. Most of the time I was on camera. I was kind of shooting most of the time. So, yeah, that was Jonathan's turn to hold the camera. That is a journalist lady from Bungoma who decided to come along with us and do some stories about the project. So we're making some deliveries to the families that were not able to come to the orphanage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we drove for a few miles to get
And
to some of these families.
how many orphans would you say are in the Robin's Nest orphanage?
Robin's Nest would have about 20 orphans and growing.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's expanding.
So it sounds like you probably got much more food than you would need for just 20.
Yeah, the thing is, we would get some food to go to the families of these orphans too.
Okay.
Yeah, so not all the food was consumed by the orphanage.
Okay, I was going to say it's a lot of.
But they would get a good supply for the whole year until the next, because we plant by the season. When the rains are coming, we get to plant, and then the harvest, you're going to harvest and wait for the next rains to plant. So this food pretty much takes you through.
And these seeds, these hybrid seeds, they're doing much better than the seeds from many years ago?
Much better, yes.
Oh, really?
For every acre, actually, with the seed, the hybrid seed and fertilizer, the farmers were able to yield 2.5 tons of corn. So which is a very substantial amount.
And that's very substantial.
Yeah, very substantial compared to what they were.
And these are what? These are genetically modified seed?
Yeah, for some regions, genetically modified, yes.
Are you getting complaints at all from any of your... I guess when you're getting it free, you don't complain too much, but are you getting any kickback on the fact that they're GMO or...
No, really, no.
Okay.
We haven't had any complaints.
All right. Because believe it or not, that is a big issue amongst many American food buyers and European food buyers. They don't want genetically modified.
Yeah, I think it's actually a debate right now in Uganda because
it is.
Ugandans don't want to adjust to the GMO foods. Like there's all this drama with them, so it's a big debate.
It appears that you have a lot of difficult problems, though, with the weather and the arid areas that you may need GMO seeds.
Definitely. In the arid areas, we definitely need it, yes.
Yeah.
But for most of Uganda, the southern part of Uganda, which is very fertile and...
Is that where most of the fruits are grown?
Yes.
Okay. Because the fruit, you probably don't need GMO seed at all. And Europe is your main area for export, Europe?
Yes, Europe. Yeah.
And
vegetables and some fruit and even flowers, actually.
I know you do a big flower export.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think they fly the stuff every day into Europe.
Yes, into Europe.
So it's very fresh. Now, this is what?
Yeah, this is one of those families that we're visiting. So you can tell the conditions in which they're living. So if you're going to empower them to...
No, the orphanage looked much nicer.
Definitely. And this is where some of the children come from. So when you empower their parents, they are able to improve their housing as well, you know. When you get them to yield more from their acreage, they get to improve their houses, take the children to school, in case some of those children are not in orphanages. Yeah, so that is us carrying some of these bags. Some of these places were not accessible by road, so to carry some of this.
Are you finding today the women in Uganda and Kenya are having less children? If you look globally, United States women are having less children, Japanese women are having less children, European women are having less children. Are you seeing that also in Uganda and Kenya?
Yeah, I mean, it's happening in some ways. In some cases, some of the reasons are because emancipation. Because the ladies don't want to be controlled by a man, or they want to be supported by a man, so they want their independence. So they're going to have 1 or 2 children that they can take care of.
So they are having fewer children.
Yeah, some of them are having fewer. From my family, because we're 13 children in my family.
Really?
Yeah, 5 from my mother.
Yeah.
Then when I look through my siblings who are married, my eldest brother has 4 children. My eldest sister has 4 children. Then,
so which is less than your mother?
Less, yeah. It's less, but
still a lot compared
to you guys. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think American women today are averaging, I think, less than 2 children. I'm not sure of the exact number, but it's diminished.
Yeah, our generation right now, the average is about 3 children. Yeah.
And this is again one of the poorer families.
Yeah, that's another one of the poor families.
Now, they don't even build with bricks. They build with rocks, it looks like.
Yeah, actually, that is mud.
What is it, mud?
Yes.
Oh, this is a mud hut.
It is a mud house, only that they have this kind of the poles that kind of support it.
Oh, but wow.
Yeah, that is
and does it hold up pretty well, or when you get a lot of rain, it...
Yeah, if you have strong winds and a lot of rain, it's going to wash
It does,
down,
okay.
Yeah, so this is that old gentleman right there. These are actually his children. So he was kind of demonstrating he's excited about planting. So, yeah. And that's another home visit that we're making. And that is very close to the Ugandan border.
You have good, peaceful relations with Kenya in Uganda?
Yes, we do.
Oh, good.
We do. After the post-election violence that happened in Kenya, there's a bit of turbulence. Why? Because we're landlocked, so all our goods come through Kenya. So some of our drivers were molested. Why? Because the Kenyans were saying that Uganda interfered in their situation. That
with the election?
Yeah, with the election, because the president was supporting Mwai Kibaki, who had won the election, stuff like that. He declared already before they got out of the mess. He was like, "Oh, we congratulate Mwai Kibaki for taking the election." So the Kenyans not all of them were happy about that. So
really, so they took it out with
the drivers that come through, the trailer drivers and all those.
I'm interested to see what will happen in South Africa with Jacob Zuma, who I don't know if you're aware, there was a big report this week of massive corruption where he built a $20 million home improvement.
Complex. Yes, I read about that 2 years ago.
Yeah, so, well, they finally determined he had used government money rather than he told them it wasn't government money. So there could be some repercussions in South Africa when you talk about elections. So, you know, we're not used to that in the U.S. Canada has an election. It doesn't necessarily affect us immediately. It does in things like oil pipelines.
Yes, oil pipeline from Alaska.
And this is where?
Yeah, this is still Kenya. So I love the shot because the distribution of seed and fertilizer needed to be timely because we need the rains, and that was this guy depicting the rains coming in. So yeah, that was.
These are great pictures. I've loved them all.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, terrific.
It's another one of a garden. and then the rain.
And you
up
have
in the
some
sky.
beautiful mountains, huh?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
A lot of wild animals there, or?
Oh yeah, Kenya is a very great. Kenya, Uganda, very great places for safari, and Tanzania as well. So the next time I go there, I'm looking forward to getting you lots of safari pictures.
Oh, I would hope you'd come back. Yes, I love safari pictures
Yes,
of the animals. That's a big issue for me personally. Is the global protection of animals.
Definitely.
Very big thing my wife and I are involved in. This is product of, it looks, I can't tell quite where.
Yeah, that is actually a product of the United States, I think. At least the fertilizer bag right there.
Yep.
Yeah, so this the little boy there, we brought him back home for vacation, and that is his grandmother.
Oh, his grandmother.
Yeah. So she was so excited. Now these are some of the kids from the orphanage back at Robin's
well,
Nest
they
Orphanage.
seem very happy. They must be doing okay at the orphanage.
Yeah, they do. They really do okay.
It'd be interesting to follow up on them later in life and
Yes.
see.
Yeah.
You know, that would really be
It is,
an interesting thing to
Just
see.
like we're doing with Watoto, kind of following the story, and down the road you can catch up with them and see what's going on.
And see how many go to university, how many go to jobs, things like that, I think would be very interesting.
Yeah, so this is the whole team except Nixon and myself, because
you're photoing.
Photoing and videoing. So yeah, there's a lot of deliberation right there. You know, initially we hadn't planned to go to Turkana, but when we accomplished the Robin's Nest Bungoma phase of the project, we're like, why don't we head down to Turkana, which is much more arid and more desperate people, because they're pastoralists, and we're trying to encourage them to grow food instead of depending on their cattle. And what happens is there is cattle rustling that happens between the Karamoja of Uganda and the Turkana of Kenya. So they keep going across the border and stealing each other's cattle. So they steal this time, and then the Karamojongs will come and steal.
We're going to send in the sheriff. That's if it was an American story, that's our movies. You'll watch all our westerns, and the sheriff comes in and they shoot the cattle rustlers. And this has been wonderful. I hope you will come back and bring us your next tour, or if you're going to do safari, share that with us.
I look forward to that. Thanks for having me. It's been great being with you.
I'm thrilled you came. I'm thrilled. I always learn with our guests. I always get a new education.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.